Hello there, my name is Sixo, but more on that later as it's time to go Joe. Yes, today we're going to be checking out this rather sizable package, which is a collaborative effort between Transformers and G.I. Joe. It's Soundwave and the Thunder Machine. Now, Soundwave I'm sure needs no introduction for Transformers fans, but some of you may be less familiar with the Thunder Machine. It's actually a G.I. Joe staple from all the way back in 1986. It's a classic vehicle of the Dreadnoks. Now, the original toy came with the character of Thrasher, but for this release it's been updated. We've got Zarana and Zartan, who are actually brother and sister, and Zartan is the leader of the Dreadnoks overall. Anyway, before we kick off, let me just say, I know not everyone's into G.I. Joe, and some Transformers fans feel a little bit like it's being forced down our throats at the moment, in between Rise of the Beasts, the ongoing Skybound comics, these G.I. Joe collaborative figures, but actually, for my part, I'm kind of up for it. I do like G.I. Joe as a brand as well. I think this looks super exciting, and a major appeal of these toys for me is that they look exactly like the classic Joe vehicles as well. So I'm well into this. I can't wait to get cracking with it. Now, the box is super cool. It's quite literally split in half, meaning you can then separate the two halves of the outer box like this, which is really, really cool, before then unpacking the inner carton as well to reveal Soundwave and the rest of the contents. Okay, so in here you've got Soundwave in robot form, you've got the two Dreadnok figures just here in separate packaging, and you've got all the various accessories as well. Right, let's go ahead and get this guy out of here, see what all the fuss is about. And that's Soundwave out the box, not forgetting the real prize, which is this blue Masterpiece Ravage cassette. And with all of that out of the way, you can lift out this cardboard in a tray, he says, and reveal the Dreadnok characters underneath. First impressions on this, it's huge. Absolutely massive. I mean, way bigger than most Soundwave toys, which is, you know, it makes quite a first impression straight out of the box. Also does feel quite light, I'm not going to lie. Like, you know, there was some criticisms around the previous G.I. Joe collab figures that they felt a little bit hollow. I'm sensing a little bit of that straight out the gate with this one as well, so we'll have to see how that fares. Anyway, we've got some bits which we've got to add on to the toy to get it ready for inspection. First up are these little sections for the front of the shins. They just plug in like so. And then after scratching my head looking at the instructions, I worked out there's actually more accessories in the box, just kind of hidden under that bit of cardboard. There we go. Thought I was missing some stuff there. I was about to get all mad. Nah, not really. Anyway, now it's all assembled. You've got this chain gun weapon, which just kind of plugs in and sits on his shoulder like so. And that looks very cool and actually does work. And then on the other shoulder, you can plug in this rather sizable bazooka accessory. There's a little knife accessory, which just plugs in on this little slot on his leg. Never known Soundwave to particularly wield a knife, but he does now. And then you've got this little aerial accessory, which I swear I thought was a missile for a hot second there, but it's not. There we go. That just plugs into the back. Well, hang on, game changer. My son was just looking at this and actually suggested that this aerial resembles a sword. And it does actually fit in his hand, believe it or not. So alongside the knife, he's pretty well equipped. Anyway, look, here is Soundwave in his full kitted out robot mode. And I gotta tell you, I think it looks great. Honestly, again, I know I've seen some people complaining a little bit about this and some of the aesthetics of it, like the bits hanging off the arms and things like that. I really don't mind that. I think overall this guy looks great. It's very much classic Soundwave, which I know is a little bit weird considering the alt mode and all of that kind of stuff, but I don't know, what can I say? It works for me. I mean, first things first, that head sculpt is pretty great. Really reminds me of the Masterpiece MP13 toy in many regards, and it's just classic Soundwave. What more can you want? Again, I kind of do agree that the 80s tape deck door gimmick doesn't really make sense on a modernized Soundwave with a car alt mode, but it's here anyway, and actually it doesn't look too bad on the chest. It's actually got 3 stripes along the sides here, which is a little bit unusual for Soundwave, but it does work as well just by pressing the button. There you go. And you can see a little bit the sort of cassette detail inside the chest there also. I will say that actually this whole mechanism here feels a little bit flimsy. It's just something about the action of it that's not particularly satisfying. I mean, this sort of flops around a little bit. It's not particularly spring-loaded or anything like that. It's just a sort of release mechanism. So I don't know. It's a little bit unsatisfying. Still, it's a bit of fun, isn't it? And you can obviously go ahead and put the blue Ravage cassette inside. There we go. Just fits in quite nicely, actually. Pretty decently, and you can make that a G1 micro cassette if indeed you prefer as well, so that's a bit of fun. For my money, what's a little bit more egregious is how hollow these arms are. You know, there's no kind of flaps or anything to kind of hold the big holes in the sides of his arms here, so that's a little bit of a shame. Coming around to the back, and he does have a fairly sizable backpack with the kind of top of the Thunder Machine just hanging off there, but I don't actually mind that. I think it looks alright, to be honest. Now again, talking about the kind of 80s features, you've got all the sort of play buttons and things like this on his hip flaps and stuff like that there. Obviously they don't work, completely non-functional, just for show. So, does it make sense? Not really. But it's Soundwave, isn't it? I get it. It's the classic archetype of the character, and so they've replicated that. And then we come to the bottom of his legs, which I think look pretty great, especially with these kind of armour sections there. I did see someone saying it's a shame that they don't connect to the arms, or kind of actually transform as part of the arms, considering that they are part of the front of the car mode, but it is what it is. That's where they end up. Now, there is some decent articulation going on here too. Plenty in the head and neck. That's on a little ball joint, although he can't really see past his weapons, particularly looking to that side. I mean, what's going on? Quite a bit happening at the shoulders, thanks to several joints going on there, and about 90 degrees at the elbows, not too much more, and those are on a nice little clicky ratchet, so that's kind of cool. Absolutely nothing in the hands, so no wrist swivel whatsoever. Some big old chunky pop-off hip flaps just there, and then the hips will go up about just a little over 90 degrees, with rotation in the thigh as well, and then a 90-degree bend at the knee. Now the feet are a bit of a strange one. They're made out of the car seats, and they are technically pegged in place. You can untab them like so, and rock them back and forth a little bit, but technically they peg like that and then they just sit stationary. Which, all told does mean he's not the most articulated bot, despite his size. I mean, there's not even a waist swivel here, which I'm sure will raise a few eyebrows, but you know what? He's still a lot of fun to mess with despite all of that. I don't know, it's one of those where I understand the critiques that people have of these Joe collaborative toys, but at the same time, I just really enjoy them. There's a kind of simple, pleasing, chunky fun to them that, to me, really kind of harkens back to the 80s in a big way. So even though it might not be the most articulated thing, and yeah, there's some missed opportunities like the cannon not being able to be held by his robot mode hand, which is just a bit of an oversight in my opinion, despite all of that, I still really enjoy it. Yeah, there are things that don't work on it or could be better, but at the same time, it pretty much does what I wanted it to, and it's just a big old slab of fun. I can't really say it better than that. I mean, again, my son just took a quick look at this thing, and he's already enamored. He just told me how awesome he thinks it is. It's what can I say? I can't be too harshly critical of it, considering that impact. I mean, again, it's a big old slab of toy. Just look at it next to these two. You've got Legacy Armada Optimus Prime and HasLab Deathsaurus here representing for the big fellas. And he stands pretty much toe-to-toe with them. It's quite incredible to see. I mean, I pretty much guarantee that a lot of the people talking about this toy online perhaps don't appreciate quite how big it is. It's absolutely gigantic. And look, by no means do I think, it's big, so therefore it must be good or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying here. I don't know, there's just a sort of innate appeal to me with this thing that, I get it's not for everybody. I absolutely understand that. I just like it, I'm sort of willing to look past a few of the kind of more obvious flaws, I guess, and just enjoy it for what it is. And it's a bit odd seeing a kind of classic Soundwave wearing a G.I. Joe vehicle in some respects, but I'm into it. And I think that's sort of been true of all of these G.I. Joe collab figures so far. I mean, again, tons of critiques online, and I do sort of objectively agree with a lot of it. I do agree that the plastic quality is not top tier on these toys. There are various hollow parts on them. Some of the engineering and the solutions, design solutions, are maybe not the most polished, let's say. But at the same time, I'm just enjoying them. I've enjoyed all three of these. I do think the Bumblebee is the weakest, but even taking that into account, there's a lot that I've really appreciated about all three of these so far. Anyway, we should turn our attention to the Dreadnoks included. These are technically reissues of the original toys. I want to say that Zartan was 1984, and Zarana I think 86 originally. These old style cards aren't exactly great if you want to keep the packaging, but hey. Okay, so both toys include a main weapon, a little backpack section, and a little display stand as well. And of course that all works exactly as you might expect. Plug in the display stand at the bottom, plug in the backpack on the rear, and the weapons in the hands, so all fairly self-explanatory. And honestly, I think these look great, really nicely painted, really nicely finished. And I have seen a few people saying, why do they have to include these little toys with these releases, these collaborative releases? But all I'm thinking is, if you're not into G.I. Joe, why are you interested in this in the first place? I mean, look, this is as much a G.I. Joe toy line, a collaborative effort, as it is Transformers, so I think these things are a really kind of integral part of that. And, they're really nicely articulated, exactly just like the original G.I. Joe O-ring figures. Again, it's basically a reissue of that. And just looks great. And here's how they look with Soundwave himself. I mean, really nice set of toys, in my opinion. Of course, Zartan also comes with this spare face as well. It's like a little mask which goes over his regular noggin. And honestly, it looks a little bit strange. Like, it doesn't quite fit because of the way that his hood is molded. So yeah, I'm not sure I'll be using that all that much, but it's there if you need it. Anyway, let's not forget about that Ravage. I've got to see if I remember how to transform this thing now. Sides of the heads flip up like that. Then you want to unpeg this leg and just rotate it down. Then you want to fold these rear halves back, not forgetting to flip out his little tail, of course. And then the rear legs are pretty easy. They just sort of fold down and around like so. Oh yeah, you have to flip out this little nose as well. And then you can kind of bend his body to make him look a little bit more cat-like. And here we go. And yeah, really, really cool. I mean, I really like this little masterpiece Ravage mold anyway, and seeing it in blue is just really nifty. Now, some of you may be wondering, why is it blue? It's a little bit strange. It appears to be a bit of a nod, actually, to the fact that Ravage was originally going to be blue in the G1 cartoon. And actually, the original micro-change toy on which Ravage was based did come in a blue option as well. And there is a G1 Transformers toy, this guy, G1 Hellback, which was released in Japan as an eHobby exclusive that was released in blue. In this case, though, this Ravage also comes with a little collar and choke chain accessory. Now, this is not the first time this idea of Ravage being chained up and hanging out with a G.I. Joe character has been seen. There was a very famous cancelled bust of the Baroness with the more G1 coloured Ravage. Didn't make it to the light of day, but here you go. You've seen the idea realised at long last, and it's a bit of fun, isn't it? But if that's not enough interactivity for you, then you can put the two Dreadnok characters in the rear of Soundwave's backpack as well, just like so. So they just kind of hang out there at the rear. It does look a little bit odd, and obviously I've removed the massive cannon just here so that Zorana can see where she's going. I guess the idea is that they're operating the weapons, which, yeah, I like the idea of it. I don't know if in practice it quite works, but it's there as a little feature if indeed you want to do that. Anyway, as fun as all of this is, it's really only half the story, so let's check out that transformation. First thing you want to do, of course, is remove all this bump on top, and indeed these bits on the shins again, because, oh no, it's parts forming. Just fold his head away, and then it's a similar story for the robot mode hands as well, and then you want to fold down these bits for the front of the car. Next, you want to rotate this arm at the shoulder like so, and then fold this whole bit up and around onto the top like that. And as you might expect, it's exactly the same process on the other side, so just flip that round, then fold that up and over, and then the two shall meet in the middle and kind of click together. And then you've got these two little panels on the side that just click up, as well as two little panels just around here at the rear that just kind of fold down and click into place. Next, we're going to work on the legs, and that starts with the hips, which just need to be pulled out of place like so. Kind of collapses down before turning the lower leg in one turn and then the whole leg in one more with a nice clicky ratchet. And of course you do the same on the other side. Then you just want to unclick the feet just to make sure that they're ready to be slid into position, and bring this one panel up here on the one leg. Now comes the fun part. You want to bend the leg 90 degrees at the knee, and then without rotating it, unclick that piece there and fold the whole lower leg round so that it kind of starts to line up with the middle of the kind of cockpit section just here. And if you've got it all in position, that should allow you to just kind of click it like so, and the seat ends up, the foot seat ends up in the right place. This all clicks into place nicely. And of course we can just repeat the process on this side, so just unclick that knee, fold it round, kind of line it up into position. At this point you'll want to make sure that stuff is tabbed in properly, like just here on the back of the legs as you go. And again, that will enable you to just kind of plonk this bit down, give it a little push, and then it should just click into place quite nicely on the side there. Then this middle panel just pushes down and clicks into place to kind of close that off. And it's the same on the rear with these knee pad sections just clicking down into place, but they do take a little bit of force just to get them to go, but they do click quite nicely. Then of course you can just bring the whole roof of this car down like so, just peg in the roll bar at the sides and fold these side flaps down like that. Then you want to go ahead and attach these various bits, so the chain gun just tabs in, pegs in at the front just like that, and then this front protection bit just kind of slides in like so. Then for the rear weapon, you want to fold this bit down first of all, because that forms the rear of the car, and then this whole bit will just tab pretty securely in like so, and then just push that into place. Oh, and not forgetting, very important detail, this little side mirror. There you go. I believe that was actually a detachable piece on the vintage Thunder Machine toy and quite commonly lost. And not forgetting that little aerial piece as well. That needs to go back in place if you've removed it. And there we go. And my word, I think it looks fabulous. Honestly, I'm really blown away by this thing. Again, I know there's a lot of complaints about these from some, like die-hard Transformers fans or whatever, these collab figures. I just think it does this job beautifully. It's exactly what I wanted it to be. I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is the Dreadnok Thunder Machine. It's been a while since I've seen one of the vintage toys in hand, but it has all the right hallmarks about it, and it just evokes that toy so heavily. And in my mind, that's the real success of these G.I. Joe collab efforts, because it's as much a G.I. Joe toy as it is a Transformers toy. It's a real meeting of the two brands. And I think maybe that's where some Transformers fans that aren't into G.I. Joe kind of get lost with this a little bit. For my part, as someone who's always admired G.I. Joe from the kind of sidelines, but doesn't have the space, nor the budget, nor any of that to kind of go in on collecting those toys as well as Transformers, this is the perfect solution. So I'm thrilled to see this. And honestly, I think it looks great. Really, really great. I mean, again, yeah, there are some little compromises here and there, like the pinned on wheels. That is a little bit unsightly. I would have loved to have seen a better solution than that. It doesn't look quite as nice as the vintage Thunder Machine, but hey ho, I understand that's the way it is. And the original has sort of rubbery, soft tires. This has hard plastic, so that would have been nice to see, but I wasn't expecting it. As much as you maybe can knock it for feeling a little bit hollow in the robot mode, there's no such complaining about that here, because honestly it feels really solid. It rolls really nicely on a flat surface, and just generally, yeah, it feels great in hand, it looks great. I'm satisfied. One thing that is quite amusing about this is that the front end here is actually a Pontiac Trans Am, and in order to replicate it here, Hasbro had to get a license to produce this. So I think it's funny that this is a licensed vehicle mode. Of course, you can do the chain gun thing again in this mode, just kind of wiggle that back and forth for a bit of firing action, so that's kind of fun. You can lift these rear flaps to kind of reveal the rear tires, so if that's something you really want to do. There's these little side guards, so you can go ahead and plug your G.I. Joe figures onto the sides of the car, just like that, and they can just be kind of hanging off mid-action. Alternatively, you can lift up that canopy section again, just like that, to kind of reveal the interior. It does have a little steering wheel and everything in the middle there as well, so that's kind of cool. And then, of course, you can slot in your two Dreadnoks. They fit in fairly snugly, but quite nicely once you get the feet aligned and all of that kind of stuff. And you can then obviously go ahead and close up this whole top section again. It will close up as long as you've got everything in the right place, and they fit pretty nicely inside. But in my mind, it's much more fun to make use of the fact that vintage Action Master Transformers are roughly the same size as G.I. Joe figures. Because yes, even though he is a little bit of a squeeze getting in there, still, Soundwave looks absolutely terrific riding himself. Because why not, eh? I mean, case in point, this looks awesome. I don't know, it's silly. It's so silly. But I love it. What can I say? This is everything to me. This is peak Transformers right here. Anyway, look, it's a big success for me. Again, I've said it before. I know not everyone's going to be impressed. I'm really into it. I like all three of these. As I say, the Ore Striker is definitely the weakest so far for me. But, the Thunder Machine, the Hiss Tank, I just can't wait to see what they do next. Please do more of these, because I think they're great. Besides, wouldn't it be fun if Hasbro remembered one of the other prominent 80s toy lines that they still have the rights to and haven't done anything with in ages, and brought it back in a similar style? Hint, hint. In conclusion then, I'm a big fan of the old Soundwave Thunder Machine here. But do let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you like this thing? Are you really not so sure? I'd love to hear whatever your take is. And please don't forget to drop me a like for this video as well, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I should also mention that this video is brought to you by TF Source. I'll throw a link to their site in the description below, where I believe they've still got this thing in stock currently. Otherwise, that's it from me, so enjoy the rest of your day, and TTFN.